Hello, everyone, and welcome. I am Brian of Hessens County, and I'm glad that you could join me today. Today, we're going to be doing a TTRPG talk looking at the game Be Seeing You by Tanya Floaker. Be Seeing You is a narrative building game based around the concepts of no dice, no masters. In its dystopian setting, Be Seeing You explores the concepts of state surveillance, coercion, and the struggle between individualism and social conformity. This is done through a series of roles that the players fill. The prisoner is an individual who acts in many ways as the main character for this game's narrative. Something about them has kept them from really fitting into the strictly structured society that they find themselves in. After disrupting order, after their resignation from a job or some other position that remains ill defined in the narrative, they have been placed under strong surveillance in a special location called the Village. The administrators are characters that have been appointed by Control to try and mold the prisoner back into being a model citizen. This character regularly changes, but their objective remains the same. They seek out the reason why the prisoner resigned, while also covertly trying to get them and the other characters in the village to start conforming to expectations and maintain control over the village. In the village role, the player is in charge of creating locations, the feel of the setting, some uncanny elements that society has created in this place, and how the narrative changes what has been established before. Some of this is designed to physically and psychologically control the prisoner and the residents, while other elements may bring momentary respite to them. The residents are supporting characters that live within the village. All are known by a number rather than a name, come from various and sundry backgrounds, and bring with them various motivations. Some may rebel against the administrators, while others embrace conforming to Control's mold. While these four roles exist, each to be played by a certain player, that does not mean that you need to have four players. In fact, the game encourages the village and residence role to be folded into one another for three-player games, and of course you can have multiple residence players if you have more than four. There are specialized play aids and scenarios for a two-player sort of versus mode, where one player takes on the administrator role and the other player takes on the prisoner role, or a solo prisoner diary version of the game. In the 3+ player version of the game, the player starts off with an initial round where the village, the prisoner, and some of the NPCs are fleshed out by the group. Then they go through a series of stages where the antagonistic nature of the roles drives scores that are tracked to see how the escalating efforts of both the prisoner and the antagonists are going towards reaching their goals. This, combined with the unusual circumstances that begin to be introduced into the narrative by some picking and randomization, make the struggle increasingly surreal and desperate until a chosen administrator character and the prisoner enter what is referred to as the degree absolute. This final confrontational interview between them brings about the end of the story as the players decide the final fates of some of the involved characters, the village itself, or just the society at large. In a game with such heavy material, it is of course important to maintain safety and comfort at the table. An X card system has been built into both the game mechanics and the play aids themselves. The game also prevents the creation of long-term or stable antagonistic relationships between players at the table by including game rules that rotate between the players, encouraging the group to work together to build the story rather than, as I said, maintain antagonistic relationships as you might see on a standard game of, let's say, Dungeons and Dragons, where the GM is on one side and the players are on the other. Finally, in the post-game, the players are invited to engage in a round of stars and wishes, where they discuss things that they liked, the stars, and things that they wish that might have been different about the events of the game. In my opinion, a good game often starts by building the feeling of the game in its art design and layout, by which Be Seeing You certainly has done. While the main text could have been used a bit more spacing, the use of simple graphics, color, and monochrome photography creates a certain feeling in me that really fits the style of game and really seems to fit the time periods that a lot of sort of modern dystopian fiction has a tendency to represent. There are also a huge number of play aids for group, versus, and solo play, as I mentioned before. However, I do wish that there was a print-friendly or text version of the actual game manual itself. There are soft and hardcover versions of the game both available for purchase, but a rich text edition of the manual would potentially improve accessibility for folks like myself who have issues sometimes concentrating in graphically busy layouts or have issues focusing on text on a screen for a long period of time. Overall, BCNU is a great game for players who enjoy creating collective narratives in a setting that would appeal to fans of many different kinds of modern dystopia, like V for Vendetta, or maybe the game We Happy Few. Um, Definitely, it seems to me like it'd be worth a look. Links to the game can be found in the doobly-doo down below, along with other stuff about Tanya Floaker. My own material, also, you can find links to it down below if you wish to support the channel by either donating on Coffee, watching more of our videos that you can probably see on the screen now, or, of course, taking a look at my own itch store. Thank you very much for joining me, and do have a good day.